There are 10 ways that the Nothing Phone 1 is better than the iPhone 14 Pro. Number 1, let's talk about the obvious, and that is price. And the fact is, the profit margin on an iPhone 14 Pro Max is over 50% of the cost of the phone. That means for every phone you buy, more than half of it is sheer profit. Apple could sell these phones for half the price and still make profit, but no, they have and will always charge their Apple tax, and of course, all of the other brands will follow suit because they want their profits too. Everyone else, that is, except for Nothing, whose Phone 1 is basically priced the same, but without the Apple tax. It costs less than half of what the iPhone costs, and they're making a tiny margin of just $88 per phone. And apparently,
our margin is 0.
Once you factor in the cost of logistics and network carriers. Now, number 2, one of the most important things about smartphones these days is almost certainly the cameras. In today's fast-paced world, we relive our lives through the photos we capture, and we need reliable cameras that take decent photos. Now, the cameras on the iPhone 14 Pro are some of the best on the market right now, which at over $1,000 you kind of expect, but despite more modest specs, the Nothing Phone's cameras do a really decent job. You'd have to be looking pretty hard to find any noticeable issues with the cameras. It takes solid photos in lots of different lighting conditions, and as a bit of a bonus, the Nothing Phone doesn't over-beautify its selfies, which is a blessed relief as I'm trying really hard to embrace my age, and I don't want my daily carry to not so subtly imply that I look old AF every time I go to take a picture. Number 3, let's talk about the obvious difference, the Glyph interface. Now, some people might call it gimmicky, some people might call it innovation, but I actually really like the uniqueness of the glyphs on the back. It certainly sets itself apart from, well, all of the iPhone and Android phones that I reviewed so far, and you can customize this how you see fit, even creating custom sequences as well. And with all of this combined, you'll be the one person in the sea of boring rival flagships with a phone that actually stands out. Number 4, following on from that, I'm also interested in the future innovation. We've already seen the Nothing Ear and stick headphones, and there's rumors to have a watch coming soon. With all of their products having this extreme taste of innovation that feels like Apple has just lost in recent years. We're also not that far away from potentially seeing a Nothing Phone 2, and I am super interested to see whether they'll bump up some of the specs to really go after the flagship level devices, which are coming out or have already been released this year. Number 5, the screen on the Nothing Phone 1 is actually bigger than an iPhone 14 Pro. Now, this is the Pro Max I have here, which is of course bigger, but remember, this is half the price of an iPhone Pro. Now, we have a 6.5-inch screen versus a 6.1-inch screen, and that screen is still 120 Hz on both devices and features AMOLED on the Nothing compared to the regular OLED on the iPhone. Now, realistically, the OLED versus AMOLED doesn't make much of a difference, but if you like consuming content or playing games, then you might be better off with the slightly larger screen on the Nothing Phone. Number 6, speaking of performance, charging speeds. Now, the iPhone has max charging speed of 15 watts wireless and 27 watts wired, whereas the Nothing Phone 1 has the same 15 watts wireless, but an increased wired charging speed of up to 33 watts. Now, in reality, this doesn't give you much of a difference in real-world charging time, but that's mostly down to the fact that Nothing Phone 1 has a bigger 4500 mAh battery compared to the iPhone 14 Pro's 3200 mAh battery. Oh, and also we've got Lightning and USB-C. I kind of know which one I prefer here. And then number 7, cameras. So the iPhone does have some of the best cameras available today, but they are kind of limited. You have a 48 megapixel main camera and two 12 megapixel secondary cameras. Compare this, however, to the Nothing Phone 1's cameras, and you have a 50 megapixel main camera and a 50 megapixel ultra wide. So no matter which lens you choose to use, the Phone 1 will be able to capture more detail than the iPhone, and in certain lighting situations, your shots will look better on the Nothing Phone 1. Now, overall though, I really like the cameras on the Phone 1. I think we're almost at peak camera stages here where all the phones are just punching pretty high in terms of the photos they can capture. I'm sure you won't be disappointed with the results you'll get from the Nothing Phone 1. Number 8. Now, one thing you do lose is Face ID, but as someone who's recently switched away from iPhone to Android, I've gotten used to using an under-screen fingerprint scanner really quickly, and I actually find it more convenient in a lot of situations where you just grab your phone from the pocket and, oh look, it's unlocked and gone to the home screen already, because that's just the way that you hold it as you pull it out of your pocket. And the fact it just goes to the home screen too just gives you one less thing to do. There's no like swipe up to unlock like on the iPhone. And I dig that. Number 9, SIM cards. Apple surprised us this year by removing the SIM card tray from the iPhone, but so far the rest of the mobile phone industry is yet to follow with this change on their phones. And I, for one, really don't want to be dealing with eSIMs. Like, just imagine if you ever wanted to pick up a phone on launch day, but you can't use it because all of the carrier lines have like huge queues because everyone's trying to do the same thing at the same time, like on iPhone launch day where no one can activate their eSIM. And number 10 is just everything about how the Nothing Phone 1 looks and feels and works. It just looks like an iPhone. It feels like an iPhone in your hands. It certainly is the most iPhone-like Android I've used before, but it's also not an iPhone. But it gives you all the benefits of the Android ecosystem, the customizability, even the cheaper apps, which I spoke about in a recent video. You get the new, exciting Android experience while still in the familiar yet ever so different casing. Until next time.